This is my house. At least it was my house until I got paid to live in it for the past 2 years. And if you're wondering how I was able to do that, that's exactly what I'm gonna be showing you in this video. So for it to all make sense, we have to go back to 2019. And also, if you stick around, I'm gonna give you a quick home tour of this beautiful house that I'm gonna be talking about, so make sure to stay tuned. So the year is 2019, and I just sold my first ever business that I started a couple of years ago. And at that point, I had 3 properties that I was paying rent for. The first one was my mom's, the second one was my own apartment, and the third one was an office space with a little bit of space to fulfill the product that we were selling at that point. So what if I just buy a really big house and put everything that I'm paying rent for all in one place? My mom, me, and also my office space and a little bit of a fulfillment center in the basement. And that's exactly what I did. So after looking for a couple weeks, I finally came across a house that pretty much met all the needs of having a really big space and reasonably priced. And the other best thing about that property was it was on the market for around 3 to 6 months. So that gave me a lot of leverage to go in and offer less than what they were asking for. They listed that property for around $820,000, but I went ahead and made a deal for $787,000. And then after closing costs and a few different fees, I ended up spending around $810,000 for that property. And no, I did not pay all cash for that property. As a first-time home buyer, I was actually able to put down less than 20%. I think I put down around 10 to 12% down, and I was able to buy it. So now you might be confused to how I got paid if I actually bought the house. Well, for that to make sense, let's go back to 2022. So a few months ago, I decided to leave Maryland, which was the place that I owned the house in, and move to the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. And at that point, I was presented with 2 options. Well, the first option is to just rent the house, and the second option is to sell it. And to be honest with you, I really loved the house, and that was my first ever house, and I had an emotional connection to it, so I was leaning more towards renting it. But after discussing it with my real estate agent and doing some research on how much I can potentially get for rental, it did not make sense. And one of the biggest things that my real estate agent was telling me at that point is now is the best time to sell because there wasn't enough houses in the market and the demand was through the roof. So the decision came down to either keeping the house and potentially making a small amount of cash flow or potentially selling it and making a lot more. So I went with making a lot more because you're a boy trying to get rich overnight. But I told my real estate agent that I'm only willing to sell this house if I can sell it for $1 million. And to be honest with you, when I said that, I didn't really expect that it would happen. I just said it because I honestly just didn't want to sell the house and I was just looking for every reason to keep it. So I told him if I don't sell it for $1 million, I'm going to go ahead and just keep it, rent it. And even though I'm not going to make a lot of return on my investment through rental, I'm just going to keep it because I just love the house. So my agent said, hey, trust me, if you don't get the price, I'm just going to remove it and you don't have to worry about anything. So I honestly didn't have much to lose. So I decided to go ahead and then list it. And one of the things that my agent told me is if you want to make $1 million, you don't price it at $1 million. You price it lower so that people can bid and potentially go higher than $1 million. So that's exactly what I did. Went ahead and listed the house for $969,000, and we listed the house on a Thursday, and by the next day we already had like over 10 bookings, and within the next couple of days we had close to 40 if not 50 bookings. And then on that Monday I was presented with 10 offers. And the top offer was $1,075,000, which was over $100,000 over asking price.
What do you get, 695? That'll be 95, Bill.
So pretty much after living in this house for the past 2 years, I got paid $265,000 to pretty much live in it. So that's what I would consider it to be getting paid to live in this house. And obviously we're gonna be conservative and take off any expenses like property taxes, interest, maintenance, and also the commissions that I paid the agents. Let's take off another $100,000 from that. So I still walked away with around $165,000 of tax-free money. So the reason I'm telling you this is not to brag, but to teach you a few things that I've learned throughout this process. So these are the things you need to know in order to make this happen for you as well. Obviously, I'm not saying that your property is going to appreciate this much within a short amount of time, because honestly, this is unheard of. Over the past 2 years, the real estate market has been going to the moon. I'm not sure when it's going to stop. I think it's slowing down right now. But what I want you to know is the things that you need in order to be able to buy your first property. Because there's a lot of things that I didn't really know before I went into this, and I've learned a lot throughout this process. So I'm I'm going to tell you exactly what you need and exactly what you need to prepare yourself for in order to buy your first house. Because to be honest with you, this has been the best investment that I've ever made in myself and also my family. And buying your first property, if you do it right, is going to be also the best investment in my opinion. So these are the things that you need to be focused on so that you can go ahead and get that first property. So the first one is 2 years. So if you're wondering what the 2 years for, if you heard me earlier when I said tax-free money, so if you buy your own property and then hold it for 2 years, let's say you buy your house for $300,000 when you bought it, and then let's say you go ahead and sell the property for $500,000 after 2 years. The best thing about that is just because you lived in that house for 2 years and it was your primary residence, you're not going to be taxed on the first $250,000 of the profit. So the $200,000 profit that you made is going to be tax-free. So that I pretty much get to keep it in your pocket, which was a really good thing because I waited exactly until 2 years before I even listed my property because I obviously didn't want to be taxed by selling it early on. So that's one of the things that you want to focus on. The second thing is FHA. So one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen a lot of people have about buying a house is the fact that you need a lot of money to buy your first property. And that is incorrect. One of the things about FHA, which is a loan type, so as a first-time home buyer with FHA loan, you'll be able to buy a house with as low as 3.5% down payment. So you don't need 20% down to buy a house, which a lot of people kind of make it out to be. And the third one is your credit. Obviously, banks look for a really good credit, but one of the biggest misconceptions that I see a lot of people have is just focusing on the number and not so much of the history. People think just because they get a credit card and get a car loan within the first year or two that they're gonna be able to go ahead and qualify for a loan right away, and that is not true. Most banks actually look for history. So if you're 18, you should get your first credit card at that point because banks want to see that you've had credit history for a long period of time, not just having a bunch of different credit cards. And if you want me to make a more detailed video of how to increase your credit, what exactly banks look for, because obviously that's not the only thing that they look for, I'll make sure to go ahead and do that. So go ahead and drop a comment, let me know. I can make a more detailed video about credit, different type of loans, and also more about housing and how to go ahead and buy your first property. So without further ado, I know what you came in for, other than hearing that I made money on the house, is for the house tours. So let's roll the